We're here with BJ from Dark Age Games, and he's going to give us an overview of Dark Age.
Hi, how you doing? This is Dark Age. It is a tabletop skirmish system. It is based off of squad activation. You basically have your skirmish army created from individual squads or units, which would be individuals that are unique or basically just generic individuals that can pose as the leader of the squad or the force that you're going to be playing. It is a squad activation, meaning that if you alternate a squad, then your opponent will alternate a squad or activate a squad, and you'll keep going back and forth until all your squads is activated. We use D20 exclusively. We don't use any other dice for the game. That's all you need to use, and typically you only need two D20 dices to play, and you also have a tape measure. The game is based in centimeters, so it is a little bit awkward sometimes for some people converting over from inches to centimeters, but it goes for a very fun, fast, active game. The game itself is very brutal. It is typical to see in one game that you will come down at the end of the game, 2 models left on the battlefield. And one of our popular taglines, as you see, is that everything dies. And no unit in this game is the more powerful unit that can just walk through the rest of the army or the rest of the forces. Everybody in the force has a chance of taking down even the biggest guy. The basic premise behind the game is that we use activation points for each unit. When you have a unit, you have a typical number of 3 to 4, sometimes even 5 activation points, where you can actually move, shoot, or attack depending on where you're at in the game. That would be AP. For the example right there, you see Clergy Anne. She has an AP of 3. DF is your defense. That's a 3. The lower the better. AR is your armor. The higher the better. MV, that's the base move in centimeters per AP. You can actually move that miniature. PS is your psych, and that is basically a guts or morale check with VV. HP is your hit points, and PV is the point value of the model. Certain units have special abilities that do certain things in the game. Never Panic and Rage are a couple of special abilities. That Rage is actually particular to Clergy Anne and their leader, St. Mary, which is not on the board. But Never Panic basically means that they'll never run off the table. Another thing that's important in our game is that the size of the miniature is not necessarily determined by the base of the miniature. We typically use three miniature sizes, which are base sizes, which are 30, 40, and 50 millimeter, which is not shown right here at the moment. But what's more important is what the size is on the card. The size will be either small, medium, large, or huge. Typically, a small or medium miniature will be on a 30 millimeter base. A large unit will be on a 40 millimeter base, and a huge unit will be on a 50 millimeter base. The importance of size is that you can move through your own troops as long as you're equal or greater than the size of the unit you're trying to move through. So an example, the Scrafter cannot move through the drill head, but the drill head can move through the drafter. Enemy bases, as far as moving through enemy bases, you may never move through an enemy base. One of the unique things that we have about Dark Age in conjunction with the activation system is that there is no need to declare any charges. You just simply declare the intent to move one miniature into base-to-base contact with another miniature. If you make it, that's considered a charge. You do not have to move in a straight line. You do not have to have line of sight to the target before you actually declare the charge. You have to just determine whether you have enough activation points to move. A good example right here, the Grafter wants to attempt to charge the Flens here. What you do is say, I'm going to move the Grafter into the Flens. You measure the distance between the two, and the distance is approximately 8 centimeters. Her movement is a move of 5, so it would take her 2 activation points to move in base-to-base contact with the Flens, and that's considered a charge. When you charge somebody, you actually gain bonuses to your chances to hit and your chances to damage a unit. Combat is done very unique in this system that in most cases, if had the Grafter been further away, we measure the distance, and it is just over 11, so that would actually take her 3 AP. So normally, you wouldn't think that you'd be able to attack the Flens, but because you moved in base-to-base contact, you actually get a free AP. in addition to any charge bonuses, which I mentioned. The close assault is basically done base to base. There's no distance between. In order to be in close assault, you actually have to be in base to base. Each unit has at least one attack group, which is usually at the bottom of the card, and sometimes you may even see more than one attack group. The attack group will list how many attacks you can make with that 1 AP of activation. For the example of the Flens has 2 attack groups. They have 3 attacks in 1 attack group and 1 attack in attack group number 2. That means for 1 AP of activation, if this Flens were to move into base-to-base contact with the Grafter, this Flens can actually do 3 separate attacks on the Grafter. In the example, we'll use the 3 dice here. The Flens has charged the Grafter, and we notice that the AS of all their attacks is 7. The Flens will gain a charge bonus, so she will actually get +1 to all her attacks in that attack group. So she has a 7, it will now be an 8 because of the charge, and the Grafter has a defense of 5. You add the 2 numbers together to give you a target number. In this case, so the target number will be 13. So the Flens needs to roll, the player of the Flens needs to roll 3 dice, and in order to hit, they have to roll 13 or lower. One of the things that we use in Dark Age is rolling lower is better. So if you're rolling a lot of 1s, that's really good. Then you're going to be hitting more often than not. If you're a really good high roller with the D20, then you're going to be missing quite often. But you roll low, and in this case, the Flens didn't really roll too well. Rolled 2 14s and a 20. The 20 is a critical malfunction, or not a malfunction, sorry, is basically a critical miss, and she loses an AP of activation. Ranged is not unfamiliar or not different from combat. You basically do the same thing. You want to go ahead and shoot. You declare your intent to shoot. You measure the distance between the 2 targets. In this case, it would be 9 centimeters, which would be under a 10. So for every 10 full centimeters, you would have -1 to your target number. But we add the AS of her attack, which is a 6, the defense of the Grafter, which is a 5. So this Clergy Ann would need an 11 to hit the Grafter. She misses. In most cases, for ranged attacks, some spells that some of the units have, they usually have what's called a malfunction number. If you roll that number, basically that means you've shot yourself or you've hurt yourself. And it can be very disastrous. Sometimes if you're well intent to try to shoot a model and you roll a 20 or you roll a malfunction, and you usually wind up shooting yourself, and you can also sometimes kill yourself. It's a very brutal world in Dark Age. We also, one unique mechanic that we have for Dark Age is called the gang up bonus. When you have multiple friendly units engaging an enemy unit, they gain bonuses for each additional unit that is in base-to-base contact with the enemy unit. So in the case of all these 3 miniatures are here, and a Clergy Ann charges in addition to the Clergy Ann's charge bonus, she's going to get +1, +1, +1, so she's going to have a total of +4 to her AS and +4 to her power. So the more people you have in base-to-base contact, the more likely that you're able to hit and wound your opponent. That gives a very powerful ability to smaller swarm-like troops, like the Icecast slaves, spear slaves, which are not very powerful on their own, but in large numbers are very powerful. Very typically, a game of Dark Age is about 500 to 750 points. A 500-point game can last probably about 45 minutes. It's a very fun and fast game, and most people that have played the game enjoy it immensely, and they have a good time when they're playing it, and fun is had by generally all when we play.
Thanks a lot.